When he was a kid, he wanted to grow up to either be a cowboy or a baseball player. Lucky for us, he became a writer instead. He began writing when he was just 16, a little older than the hero of his Newbery Medal winning book, MANIAC MAGEE. After his high school football team won a big game, his classmates ran cheering through the streets, all except him, who went home and wrote a poem about the victory. When his poem was published in the local paper, he decided to become a writer instead of a major league shortstop. In most of his books, he writes about events and feelings from his own childhood. He also gets a lot of material from his 6 kids and 21 grandkids, and his wife, Aline, also a children's book author. They both live in Pennsylvania. Please help me welcome the legend, Jerry Spinelli.
Thank you, Christopher.
Jerry, can you share which books or authors inspired you to become a writer and how they influenced your writing?
I don't have the usual writer's profile. You mentioned playing shortstop baseball. That's what I did with my spare time. I played sports all the time. I did not read hardly at all. And so I really wasn't influenced by any writers. I just wrote that poem about the football game. And then by the time I went to college, knew I wanted to be a writer, but I didn't have the sense to mimic other writers and to study them. I wish I did now. So it's almost as though I had to invent fiction for myself. The closest I came to being influenced by another writer would be Red McCarthy, the sports editor of the Norristown Times-Herald newspaper, and that's about the only thing that I read. Nobody told me how hard it was going to be, that writing is one thing, making a living at it is another. I decided that this was something that apparently I had a knack for, and I liked to do it, and it was meaningful to me, so I went ahead and did it.
Your Newbery Medal winning book, MANIAC MAGEE, addresses important themes of racism and inequality. What inspired you to write about these themes, and how do you hope this book impacts middle school readers and their understanding of racial identity?
I didn't start out wanting to write a book about racial problems. It began as a book about a kid who was a hero to other kids, a kind of super kid. I began to refer back to my own upbringing in my hometown, and it was kind of divided, the white end and the black end. And I saw this as an opportunity to say something that I had been feeling for a long time. And so it just fit in very nicely to bring in Mars Bar and have him interact with MANIAC MAGEE and go from there.
You've had an extensive career in writing children's books. What was one of the most challenging moments you faced in your writing journey, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I would say the most challenging time was the first 25 years after I decided I wanted to be a writer. Between that time and the time that my first book was published. During those years, I wrote 4 novels that nobody wanted. It's one thing to decide to be a writer. It's another to get yourself published and another to make a living at it. So that took quite a while, and that was by far my most challenging time. And I just stayed with it until good things started to happen.
Your book, Stargirl, has resonated with many readers and was even adapted into a movie. How do you feel about the adaptation, and what do you think it brings to the story that the book does not?
I thought the adaptation was pretty good. Most writers will tell you they get pretty nervous at the prospect of their story being adapted for the screen. Often as not, you probably know this already yourself. The book is usually better than the movie. And so when we first screened the movie Stargirl, my wife and I were not too optimistic, but it turned out to be better than we expected. And so there was relief, and we were happy that the film, for the most part, conformed to two major elements. It followed the story pretty closely, and it captured the character of Stargirl. We were pretty pleased with that.
Your upcoming book, Dead Wednesday, is set to be released in August. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired the story and what readers can expect from it when reading it?
I got a letter from a teacher in Texas telling me about something at their school that they call Dead Wednesday. And it's a way to impress on kids about to enter high school to play it safe, particularly in driving. And so I thought, boy, there's a story waiting to be told. I cooked up my own story to go with it. To this day, I would like to thank that teacher for the idea, not to mention the title, but I don't know who it was.
Have you heard about recent book bannings?
Yes. Not a happy subject.
Just what is your thoughts on it?
Well, as someone who, as you know, wrote a book having to do with the Holocaust, Milkweed, which will be becoming a movie too, as a matter of fact, makes me think of what they did in those days in Germany, having bonfires with the fuel being books. I don't know what the answer is to that. It's just hard to see that happening. All we can do is stay the course and keep writing stories. I personally don't write to send messages. I write just trying to write a good story. The messages come along for the ride. Hopefully, things in the end will balance out, and you'll have the book banners, but you'll also have the book champions. We can only hope that's the way it plays out.
Why do you think adults actually ban these books?
I would guess because they're too invested in their kids' lives. They won't let them chart their own course. They think it's necessary to give them a trophy every time they strike out, and they think it's necessary to call their teachers and complain because they got a B+, and they think it's necessary to police the material that they read. It's a misguided approach to parenting, and I think I'm qualified to say something about that. As I said, time has passed. Those grandkids you mentioned, we now have 40 grandkids and great-grandkids. I would hate to think that the book police are standing over those kids, cracking the whip and making them read what they wish.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And before we end off our interview, is there any last advice or parting words you would like to share with our audience?
Well, yeah, any writer will tell you that that's one of the most common questions, other than how much money do you make? Do you have any advice for a young aspiring writer? And my answer to that is quick and easy. Write what you care about. When I write that, I always underline the word care. Write what you care about. Because I think writing is not a matter of the correct punctuation and straight margins. It's a matter of touching the reader. I think the best way to touch the reader is to write about stuff that has touched you. You stand the best chance of inviting the reader to care as well. And that's what you want. So write what you care about. Simple.
Jerry's stories have touched countless lives and continue to inspire readers of all ages. We are truly honored to have the opportunity to speak with him. His dedication to crafting stories that address important social themes is truly inspiring. And thank you, Jerry. Your work not only enlightens, but also motivates us to think critically and act compassionately. We can appreciate your dedication and impactful storytelling. And to thank you to all our viewers, remember to check out Jerry Spinelli's remarkable books at your library.
Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate it.